Oceanagawat, welcome to Cherokee 3 here at RSU TV. Wade Blevins, Dawadon, Galiele, Jigado, Kohi.
Iron School, Jigayu Galaj, Peggy Gertie, Dawadon, Galiele.
All right, so thank you for coming back, Miss Peggy, and we've been enjoying our time. We've been kind of making our way through the primer and then talking about the possum and all of that. So yeah, so come in the land. Talagi de one. So, Kohig Hishkine Talagi de Lo Quasti. Today's the 5th Cherokee lesson. So, as I told you guys, I've got something a little special. Here is the top of it. This is the driver's ed manual in Cherokee. And this was done back, I believe they said it was in the 50s or 60s. And this one, this copy belonged to my grandma because she used to teach high school at Concord. And this was, they had these copies of the driver's ed manual there at Concord. And when she left there, she took one with her. and now I have it. So as you can see, and I brought a copy, or I brought my copy here, and of course it's getting old, and of course the cover, I need to put the cover back on, or maybe put it in plastic or something, you know, to keep it. But so before the class started, Peggy and I were looking through there and kind of laughing and trying to figure it out, because of course, you know, it's somebody else's Cherokee, somebody else's way of writing. And if you'll notice here on the cover, it's handwritten. And so that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh yeah, yes it is.
So we're going to try to make our way through the cover, just the cover today, and see if we can read. So before we do that, if you're following along at home or in class or whatever, look through there and see if there are any characters that you recognize, and see if there are any that you don't recognize, because there are several that I didn't recognize. So, but I think Peggy and I, between the two of us, I think we've deciphered most of it.
And that's just like in English, when anybody's writing, they write in their own way, and sometimes it's hard to read somebody's writing in English, and it's the same way here. When you write in Cherokee, it's your own way of writing, but it's still the symbols, it's still the characters, but you write them
you have your own way of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially with Cherokee, everyone developed their own method of doing it, because of course Sequoia's original syllabary didn't look anything like what we have today.
Exactly. Yes.
And what we have today came from Elias Boudinot and the printing press. So it was a challenge, I think, for people to take what was done with the printing press and be like, well, how are we going to write that with a pen now? Because you know, it had all the different serifs and all those different things. And we didn't have, you know, like when we learned English, we learned how to write the letters. You know, that when the teacher said, well, you know, you make the circle and you make a little stick, and you know, and that's how you make A. But we never had that. You know, you just figured it out on your own.
You know, I always thought about whenever they did you mentioned the printing press that they did. When they couldn't make all the lines the way that the Sequoia did the original syllabary, so they had to make it to fit the press. And I always used to think, and that's just the way I think, is I wonder how it made Sequoia feel.
To see
it change, because he'd worked so hard to make it the way that he did, and then for them to be able to, you know, to change it like that.
Yeah.
How disappointed he might have been. But then when you think about it, maybe he knew that they were going to do it to help the Cherokees be able to read, to be able to get the news that they needed to or whatever. Maybe that was an okay thing for him.
Yeah.
But I just think about the feelings.
Well, and whenever I haven't studied the original syllabary a lot, but the little that I have studied, the way he wrote it, it was very logical. It made sense. Like for example, if a word had the on sound in it, then there was in all of the lo, wo, yo, guo, there was some little mark in there that kind of was similar, so you kind of knew that you may not know exactly what that that character was, but you knew it had an o sound in there somewhere. I mean, he was really, it was really pretty smart.
Right,
I mean,
right.
especially for a guy who didn't have any concept of written language until he had seen. My understanding was that he saw soldiers writing back and forth in English, and that's where he got the idea. He was like, oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he saw the benefit of it. And like you said, maybe, when he weighed changing it with the benefit that it would have for the people, he was like, well, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's true. I hope that's what he thought.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Hope his feelings weren't hurt.
Right.
So before we go ahead, because I have gone ahead and tried to write it out over here, but let's see if we can make our way through it without it.
Okay.
At least the big letters.
Yes,
Now the small ones we're going to have to cheat. So because we can't. So of course up here it says Concord High School. So that's easy. So this is an ah. This would be a knee, and this would be jaw. That would be law, and that would have to be gi. So that one's pretty easy. Ani talaki. Okay, ani talak. This would be u. Here, that looks like na. This one, I think, is probably je. And this one here, I think, is li. So unajeli, that it belongs to them.
Belongs to them, yes.
Right? Theirs.
And them being Anijalagi,
Anijalagi,
the Cherokee.
The Cherokee people.
Yeah.
And then I think we have decided that this is on.
Right. And there again, the O that we have, that we write, is a little bit different than that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I think this has to be on.
Okay.
Just based on what else is in there. So, of course, this is ga. This, we already said, is li. And this and that look the same to me, so that would be on. And then this capital letter H, of course, that's me. So, ogali, omi. Today, we would put a ho, I think, in there.
Right.
So
for that sound.
Yeah. So, ogali, homi. But they wrote ogali, omi, Oklahoma.
Right.
Okay? So, then down here, we have aw. And this one was really difficult. That was a difficult one. I kept thinking it was no.
Yeah.
That's what I kept thinking it was, but then I think you finally figured out that it had to be ye. Which, okay.
When you say the rest of it, together,
it makes sense.
Yeah. But looking at it by itself, you think, okay, what does that, what sound does that make? And it's hard to just look at it and say, this is it, unless you're the one that wrote it.
Right.
Or you're by the person that wrote it. It's hard to.
I wonder,
decipher.
and maybe before the next, maybe it would be interesting. I'm going to pull up one of Sequoia's original syllabaries and see and compare.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Yeah.
They wrote some of them like
kind
that.
of like
Kind of like Sequoia. Really. That would be really fascinating if they did.
It would.
You
Yes, it
know,
would.
because to me that would kind of show evidence that Sequoia's original writing system still to some degree survived.
Right,
You know,
right.
that would be really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a hypothesis, but we'll
Yeah.
test it. We'll look it up. So, ye,
Uh-huh.
li, da, s, di, ye. Ahili da sti. Ahili da sti. Driving.
Driver, yeah, some kind of driving has to do with driving.
Driving.
Ahili dosti.
Ahili da sti. And
E.
then
It's got that
E.
E on.
Yeah.
Yeah, ahili dosti. Ye. It's a ye sound at the end, yeah.
ahili da sti ye.
Yes, yes.
And then this ah again.
Uh-huh,
Da,
uh-huh,
de, yo,
uh-huh,
huh,
uh-huh.
ski.
Uh-huh.
Ada de yo huh ski. And that's like a teacher,
Right.
something that
Something
teaches you
that
something.
teaches you, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. So would you go ahead and do you think you could read what we have so far?
Okay, let's see. Anija lagi. Una jeli. Ogali omi. That's that top part up there. Okay.
Yep.
And then yes, and then this ayi, ahili da sti yi. Ahili da sti yi. Okay. Ala ada de yo husky. Ada de yo husky. The teacher, it teaches you. Ada
Yeah.
de yo husky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So really, so we would translate that and say the Cherokee people there, Oklahoma, driving teacher.
Teacher, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so that would be basically the Oklahoma Cherokee driving manual.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Because really, that's what a manual
Right,
does, is it
right.
teaches you how to do something.
In this case, to drive.
To drive,
Learn how
yes,
to drive.
absolutely.
Okay.
So, so that's what we have. Now, if you'll notice, here it has, of course, a drawing of the state of Oklahoma, and then it has one little spot here that's blown out. And this is what is now Delaware County. And this was really fun because the writing was really, really small. And, but I think we have figured out, I'll go ahead. Okay. So, I know that you people at home don't have any way of reading this here, so I've gone ahead and written it out for you. So the top one up here, this is Ju Ste Nusta, Ju Ste Nusta, and that is the town of Grove.
Okay. Okay.
That's the town of Ju Ste Nusta. Now, is there a translation for that?
I'm sure there is, but and it's probably having to do with something there around Grove. But I have never really, that's new. That's a new word for me. The Grove, the community of Grove.
And I know people ask all the time. They're like, "Well, how do you say Grove?" And I knew there was a word for Grove, but I never could remember it. And it's Ju Ste Nusta. That is Grove.
And that does sound like it means something. It's like Ju Ste Nusta, like something happened there that's in that area. Ju Ste Nusta. Ju Ste. Something about that part right there.
Yeah.
Nusta means a part of that area. A part of that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Justanala, that's Weber's Falls.
Yes.
So that tells you it's something there, in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giskanagesta, that's Gore.
Yes.
So that does sound like st at the end. It kind of tells you that it's
That's location.
Right. Right.
Interesting. Very cool. And then this next one, to took forever to figure out because I had a hard time reading. I thought it was "su." I thought it was "su-gwoni." "J da le." And of course, I know the Delaware County area pretty well, and I was like, well, it looks like around Xena. And then I figured out that it's not "sa," it's "e." "Egwoni." Egwoni means like egwa, right?
Egwa, yeah.
Yeah,
It means,
Egwoni.
yeah.
There used to be an Egwoni River in back east. Egwoni.
Okay, yeah.
So and then "j da le," and we've figured out through the process of elimination that this is related to the word dali, which can be a pond, or in this case, because it has this egwoni, a lake.
A lake.
And of course, what is in this Delaware County, of course, is Grand Lake. So this is the Cherokee word for Grand Lake.
Okay.
Egwoni dalai. So that took some Sherlock Holmes to figure that out. And then "la yin gon e." Okay? And today we would usually replace the "ya" with "yi." "Klai gon e." "Klai gon e." And that's, of course, the word for J. Which I think it's very, very interesting here on the map that J, is indicated as being the county seat.
Okay.
Because it's got it's got a dot with a ring around it, and usually on a map that means that that's the capital of a place, or whatever. And at one time, Jay was in fact the county seat, and then it moved to Grove. But and so I just thought that was interesting for myself.
And that's like going is that's a blue jay.
A blue jay,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, so it's saying like going kind of like the area or the place that there's a lot of blue
where
jays.
the blue jays are.
Yeah, where the blue jays are. Yeah.
Yeah, which I always thought that the mascot should have been a blue jay, rather than a bulldog. But it is, it is. And then the next one right here, this is Guinea Woody. Guinea Woody. That's Kenwood. So that one's easy.
Right.
There is my understanding is there's an older word for Kenwood, and it was, it's the name of the church there, Uwasa.
Oh, okay.
And that originally was the name of that community, but almost everybody now says Guinea Woody.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just kind of like an English, and they put it in Cherokee.
Yeah, it's like saying Wally Mahdi.
Yeah.
For Walmart.
Yeah.
So so this is them using English Kenwood and making it Cherokee. And then we have Kaligodi, and that is Colcord.
Okay, and that also sounds like they
Colcord. Yeah,
Colcord. Okay.
Yeah, Kaligodi. And then we have Igodi, Ganahidai. Okay. So Igod, Ganahidai. Agod is like a prairie, right? Or a plains, or like flat land, right?
Flat land, yeah.
Ganahidai, long. Right. So that would be basically long prairie, something like that. And today we call this Little Kansas, or Kansas, Oklahoma. Yeah. At home we call it Little Kansas, but I guess technically it's Kansas, Oklahoma. So that's the word here. And then the last one here, it says Ju Sko'i. Now that one I had a hard time, but thanks to the Facebook hive mind, I had posted this picture up there, and they were like, "Oh, that's oaks up there, Jew Sko'i."
Okay.
Jew skon, because I was trying to make that a goo, not a Jew. So I was like goosko. I was like, what is that? I don't know what that is. So, and then somebody was like, oh, well, if you look at the map, that's where Oaks is. And
Okay, and when you say that, Juskoi, it's kind of like a head.
yeah,
Juskoi,
Yeah.
like a usk is
Yeah,
a head.
usk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the heads or something, Juskoi. Is
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, the
But
place
that-
where the heads are.
Yeah, and the E sound tells you it's a place.
Yeah.
At the end, the E, that's at the end of that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like Goi, that also the E sound tells you it's
that you're talking about
location.
place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uskoi.
Or like, Muskogee.
Yeah. Guso.
Guso.
Yeah.
But some people say Guso.
Usoi. Yeah.
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 And that and it could be Uskoi. And you say that's oaks. Is there the what's the Cherokee word for oak? Like oaks.
Let's see. Well, let's real quickly. Let's look it up. So let's see. Okay. And quickly we will just look it up. Adayahi. Dikanigan is a black oak.
Okay.
Dolaji. Red oak. Gule Junsti. Oh, that means like small acorns.
Yeah.
Tala. Jusko. Post oak.
Okay. Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jusko is the word for the post oak tree.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's good to know. But I think you're right.
Yeah.
It probably has something to do with head. And that is the word for oaks.
Okay,
The community
good.
of oaks.
Okay.
So
I figured since the word was oak, that there was a word, Cherokee word for the tree, the oak tree,
Yeah.
that they would use that name for it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that's a lot of places, of course, in our area. Either still hold their Cherokee name. Of course, Tahlequah is the one that I can think of right off the top of my head. Chewy, Jewy,
Jewy.
the mud puppy, water dog.
Oh yeah, okay.
I learned that, and so that's where the town Chewy got its name.
So, Jewy
Chewy.
is the water dog?
Yeah, is a
Oh,
is a
now
water
what is
dog.
a water dog?
Well, a water
Is it a
dog.
tadpole?
Kind of like.
Okay.
But it's got those feathery
Oh,
little
okay,
gills, and it's got
yeah,
little hands
yeah.
and feet.
And are they common around here? Well, they have to be if Chewy's named after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, they're fairly.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
it depends. Like where I'm from, like the creek that runs by my grandma's house. Every now and then you'll find one. You'll find one or two. Not very many now.
Yeah.
But my understanding is salamanders and water dogs and those kinds of things and newts are really susceptible or really sensitive to water quality.
Oh, okay.
So if the water quality declines, then the population will decline. So.
Okay.
But yeah, and so probably and I remember in the lake sometimes they would catch those water dogs. They're big. They were 4 to 6 inches long. But usually what I always caught as a kid, they were just little tiny little things.
And are they edible?
Oh, now that I don't know. I never
Okay.
tried to eat one.
Okay.
But if anyone's ever eaten one, let us know how they taste. I'm not sure I'll ever
Yeah.
try one, but,
Okay.
I would like to know. Can you eat them? And then a tadpole, of course, is
Okay.
tigitch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tigitch
Yeah.
is a tadpole.
Yeah.
And then a salamander, duwig, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
And I actually learned that from Consortium.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Caleb Hickman, who works for the Eastern Band, but who is actually from Pryor, from here in Oklahoma. He's Oklahoma Cherokee. He works out there, and he's like a biologist or
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and
Yeah,
so he
yeah.
was doing a study on the salamander population in North Carolina, and he had the consortium try to name all the different kinds of
Okay.
salamanders that they have there.
Wow.
And that was really
Wow, yeah.
interesting, because there were some people there that remembered certain kinds already had names, you know.
Yeah,
Of course, and
okay.
probably they all did at one
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
We've just forgotten.
Yeah. There's no longer those animals around.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
still around.
Okay. All right.
But most people just call it, you know, it's kind of like, you know, a lot of times we'll just call any kind of frog, we'll call them wallows.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
even though
yeah.
there are different kinds of frogs, we just call them all the same thing. Even though there's deuced and
Teck. What is
Teck.
it? Teck. Okay. Now, which one?
toad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But a toad is a canoeing. That's a bullfrog.
Bullfrog.
Okay. So
canoe.
how about the ones that call for water? You know, when they say dooley, when it's going to
Yes.
rain or whatever. What are those called?
Are those the ones that they call deuced?
Okay. Are those is that the tree frog?
I think
Okay.
so.
See, I have asked people what that tree. I've even asked older people, and they couldn't remember what it was.
I
Okay.
think I remember somebody telling me, you know, and of course different people have different,
Right.
you know, ways of, but I think that's what those
Okay,
are. I know
okay.
that's one kind of frog.
Okay. Okay.
So,
All right. We got way off the
yeah.
subject here,
But this is
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
good, you know. But again, you know, a long time ago, when our people relied on all that kind of information, they had names for everything,
yeah,
and they remembered
yeah.
them. But as we, you know, as well, it's just like in English, you know, I can't always tell you what kind of frog that is. I just know it's a frog. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. As we get to the point where we don't use the words that much.
Yeah.
It's in the back of our head somewhere, and we have to bring it back up, you know, just
Right.
when we need to. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't ever come back up.
Yeah, no, sometimes
Yeah.
it's just there
Yeah.
and it never comes back up, you know, and that's kind of the thing as we learn, especially if we learn, you know, organically, you know, probably your parents and your grandparents knew probably far more words and terms for things than you probably ever heard.
Oh, right.
Because
Yes,
it was
exactly.
just, you know, they were things that they didn't talk about with you guys, or that just in the course of you interacting with them, those words never came
Yeah,
up, you
right,
know, but they
right.
knew them
Yeah.
from,
Or they didn't have to use them, because that's really everything that I know as far as Cherokee is I've just heard it.
yeah.
You know, I wasn't taught. Now this is the tree frog. This is
Yep.
this. They just talked about it, and I heard it.
Yep.
So evidently, some of the things that I don't remember or don't really have a word for, they didn't talk about it that much.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to use
Right.
use that word.
Well, and that's one of the theories about learning language is you learn it when you have a need for it, you know,
Okay.
and that was you. You
Yeah.
had to learn,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you had to
true.
know. And so if they, like you said, if they were words that they never really talked about that much, you didn't have to acquire
Right,
that
right.
because you didn't need it,
Right.
you know. So our
Okay.
brains are very,
Yeah.
very practical,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So, okay, so so that's the first page or the cover of the driving manual, and that's what it says. And my understanding was this was created it was translated by Johnny Chopper and Sam Hyder.
Okay.
And I believe it was a project, probably Agnes Cowan, I would guess, because it seems like all of the Cherokee language initiatives and stuff from back then kind of came, her name, she was involved in it. You know,
Yes.
I didn't know her. Did you know her?
I
or heard about her?
I heard about her when when they first started doing this, and she had some kind of a place in Tahlequah where they did the printing of the books and printing of the dictionaries and things like that.
Yeah.
I had heard that name, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I had seen her before when what is that? Joaquin Young used to have that program in Tahlequah.
Yeah.
Somewhere during that time.
Okay.
Was when
Yeah.
I
Now, was she a speaker? Or?
You know, I think I remember her, you know, as being a speaker, you know, but, you know, I don't know what area she lived in, if she lived in Tahlequah or where she actually was from,
Yeah.
you know, because some of her speaking or in the dictionary, whatever, is a little bit different. Than what, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but that's just like we were talking about. It depends on where you live.
Right,
Depends on
absolutely.
what you learned, where you lived, and what your grandparents or great-grandparents spoke or how they spoke.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, and we bring all these things up. I mean, I know it sounds like we're just visiting or whatever, but these things are important. You know, you as a learner, you need to know more than just the language. I mean, the language is tied to our culture and our history and our communities. And so, you know, I think it's fairly important that you know, the people that came before us and that did this work. You know, just like Durbin Feeling, I hope that all of you out there learn about Durbin Feeling and learn who he was and what he did for our language.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and someday people will talk about Miss Peggy that way. You know, say, "Oh, remember," but not for a long, long time.
Yes.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and let's try to get our way through. Would you go ahead and read? Last time I read it, and this time will you go ahead and read it?
All right. Ilahiyu tigesa sikwa ujetsti ehe.
Okay.
Toyu uwodu gesa kani tata. Kani tata Nicola ada quiske sikwa ujetsti. Ulsinasa kandidater og tavorske. Alle gigage osti galawe stiskohi. Let's do that again. Alle gigage osti galawe stisko. Galawestisko. Kanidata. Okay. Ugijiska. Jege. Skisi dohe. Kanidata. Kaliheliga. Aliheliga. Dekanogiska. That first word on there, that ukichiska, that's a new word for me, but when I hear it, I mean, as far as remembering, just like we talked about a while ago, I remember hearing it, but I didn't use it all the time, so it wasn't like in my, you know, real quick. But then once we found out, you know, we figured out what that was, I remember hearing it.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's what that means. And when you say ukichiska, it's kind of like you're seeing light. You know, it's something that's getting ready to shine or something getting ready to open up, and that's what it is. It's dawn or it's at daybreak. It's getting ready to to open up.
Is it? Do you remember the word for lightning bug? Because it seems like it has some of the same sounds.
Well, it does have it. It does.
I can't think of the word right off the top of my head, though.
Ugistalugis or something like that. Anigistalug. It's something like that. It's like they're shiny. is
Yeah.
what it is. Gistalug is something that's shiny.
Okay.
So that kind of has that ukijishka. It kind of does sound, has that sound
Yeah.
in there somewhere.
And that goes
Yeah.
back to the us talking about
Right,
how those
right.
sounds, each sound does have a meaning in
Right.
there. You know.
And I think it's all related. I mean, all the words in Cherokee have something in there that's related to one another. And I always say, the language is really it's really the Cherokee language is I don't know how you would say it, it's so structured in a way where it all has to do with each other. The words.
Yeah.
There's something about each word that goes with something else,
Yeah,
or
they're
that comes
connected.
from it. Yeah, it's connected.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so difficult, to actually for everybody to be speaking, because there's just something that you just have to kind of put together in order for it to make sense the way it needs to.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it too, is that that it has that connection.
Yes.
And that's once you find that connection, once you figure out that what it is, then that's when you
got it.
you have it. Yes.
Yes.
And people, I hate to, I just try to make people understand that it's not something that you're going to learn, in a year. It's not
Right.
something that but you're learning every day, and every day you get something, you're putting that puzzle piece together to connect it to what you learned, and it's
Yeah.
going to keep on adding to it.
And subconsciously your brain is making those
Right,
connections
right, yeah.
and it's figuring it out.
And your brain is going to feel like, once you're done, because I always tell the kids, I said, if your brain's hurting once you're done, with this lesson, you've done something.
Yes,
You've
absolutely.
actually learned something in there.
I know, when we worked together with Miss Alice and Miss Sue, after being with you guys a whole day,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
head would just
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah. And I do the same thing. If when I'm teaching, once I'm done with that, by the end of the day, I have to take a little, breather just to kind of get myself back to, because it is your brain. Your brain is actually doing,
A lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work.
And in educational terms, we call that rigor,
Right,
right?
right.
And people think, oh, well, you're just a teacher.
Yeah,
You just sit up there
yeah.
talking all day. What, But acquiring language is very rigorous.
It is.
It is. Your brain is having to do a lot of
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Này có đâu, klar. I du ni lukte, atla kvikska. Adelo questi, Adelo quatiskda, Adel quastida, du ni wuktane, una de yotti. Let's do that again. Okay. Adel quastida, uni unuktane, du nuktane, una de yotti. Gosh, okay.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah. Teach him a lesson.
Yeah. Adel quastida, du nuktane, una de yotti. To teach him a lesson. And just that just those three words right there has a big long meaning in there.
There's a lot in it.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah. And when you say when you say that to teach him a lesson, that's I don't know if it's really even a Cherokee thing. You know what I'm saying? When you think about that, when you think about to teach someone a lesson, you don't really teach people about a lesson, a moral, a feeling, an understanding.
Yeah.
So it's you have to put some words in there that really are big words, just to say something. That it's not that big. In English, it's not
not that big a deal, but it is.
Yeah.
And now I remember, because we were talking about Benny Smith Jagesa, and I remember when he was working with horses, and these words he said, well, it's really not kind of that teaching. It's causing them to be resourceful.
Right.
And I remember
Okay.
that was finally
Okay.
and finally it came to
Yeah,
me because
yeah.
he said, well, I try to put them in situations that cause them to be resourceful
Okay. Yeah,
rather than
yeah.
using the word learning.
Right,
You know,
right.
but
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because you're not really teaching. I mean, you're teaching, but you're putting them there where they can figure out what
Yeah.
they need to do.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's kind of like what this is right here. Is
Yeah.
they were putting the Ujesti in a place where he needs to know what was happening or
Yeah.
what he needed to not do.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it was the bragging that they were going to teach him. You know, that he was doing that he shouldn't have been doing.
That was kind of making them
Right.
mad.
Right. They didn't like it. Yeah. Okay. Taladu wuni tayorle wuni tayorle go hust udante. Taladu wuni tayorle go hust udante.
Okay.
Okay. Usse nulstanne usse nulstan taladu Woodluche, Ujesti, Juenurse. Let me do this one more time, okay? Usa Nulstana, Taladu, Woodluche, Ujesti, Juenurse. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Okay, new one. Oh, new one. There's gigage osti ula waste. Okay, let's do that one more time.
Okay.
New one. There's gigage osti ula waste. Okay. Taladu vugalse ujetsti kanidata ustikka. Gigage osti ula waistonna kanidata. Ujeja Ujesti Kla Junte Go hust Nustanidola. Nu wante se gigage osti unagosa gesa unagosa gesa Ustikka. Let me read that again.
Okay.
Nuantese gigage osti unagosa gesa unagosa gesa ustikka. And that's what we talked about a while ago, that word
Yeah.
unagosa. It's kind of like it fell off. Okay?
Yeah, it fell off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of where we left, I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
was talking about falling off
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and then this uyel, oh yeah, and we have this one, yeah.
Yeah, uyela ha gese unidata. Go ganidata. Okay.
Okay. So his
tail was naked.
His tail was
Yeah.
naked. Good. Okay. And then this do you u de ho se u ye le ha. Okay. Ga ni da de ge se.
Okay.
Okay. So do you really?
Really?
Now is this u de ho se? Is that surprised or
No,
really?
he was embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
Yeah,
Udehose.
Udehose.
He was really embarrassed. Uyelaha, naked. Gani tail. So that was.
Yeah, it
That
was.
was.
Yeah,
That was.
yeah.
So he was really embarrassed that his tail was naked.
Yes, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Do you te horse uyela kani dot jigesa.
Okay. Can you say it one more time?
Okay. Do you te horse uyela kani dot jigesa.
Very good. Okay. Okay, and then this is no wu u san I yi nul stani kilo ganu go gong si u ye le ha gani da de ge son. Okay, so no wu now.
Now.
U san I at night. Yi nul stani. Yi nul stani. It happens.
Okay. Usa yinulston.
When night
When night happens.
Yeah, Now when night happens, kilo or
Kila.
kila.
Yeah.
No, not kilo.
Yeah.
Kila. Kila. Ganu go gon. That's like he comes out.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Ganu go
Yeah.
gon. Kila. What was it? Kila.
Kilo means not until he does. Okay. No usa yinulston kill. That's when he comes out. Ganu go.
Ganu go
Yeah.
gon.
That means he comes
on
out.
at the end. That means he does it. Usually, that's when he usually does things.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
He's usually coming out.
Right.
Okay. See, still, right? Uye la ha, naked. Gani data ge son.
Okay.
His tail is right.
Yeah.
Or still is.
Still naked. His tail is. Yeah. Yeah.
So his tail is
Okay.
still.
Yeah.
So, and then of course over here it says now he only goes out at night and still his tail is bare. And can you go ahead and read this sentence for us?
No usa yinulstoni kilo ganu go si uyela gani data geso.
Okay, so and that again, no wu now, u san I night, I nur stani happens, kila like
Then. Yeah.
then ganu gong gong he usually comes out. Si still. U ye le ha naked. Gani data his tail. Ge son it habitually is.
It still is. Yes,
Still
it
is.
is. Yeah. Good.
And again, that on sound lets us know that it's a not just a one-time deal.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not just naked once. He's always naked now. So it never grew back. All right. So that finishes our story. And so whenever we come back the next time, I'll have it all written out on one paper, and we'll practice reading the whole thing, and we'll maybe then it'll be easier to see some of those relationships. For instance, this word ganu go gong. You know, we can compare that to falling off or those kinds of things. So that's all we have time for today. So Wadong Peggy, I really appreciate you being here. And
I really like it.
oh, it's done good. I'm happy. And so hopefully you got a lot out of this. And until we see you the next time, don't dago, huh?
Tôi đã con hỏi